Hi, I'm Jessica from Afro-Vegan Society, and today I'm going to show you how to make a super simple, super delicious, super affordable, better than takeout teriyaki mushroom fried rice with tofu scramble. It is so good and I cannot wait to show you how it's made. So check out the ingredients. To make this recipe, you will need mixed vegetables. I'm using kale, broccoli, carrots, and cabbage. You'll also need soy sauce or tamari sauce, teriyaki sauce, grapeseed oil or any vegetable oil with a high smoke point, thinly sliced brown mushrooms or mushrooms of your choice, thinly sliced green onions or scallions, and half a block of firm tofu. I'm using organic sprouted tofu. And scramble seasoning, which includes turmeric, onion, garlic powder, and black salt, and 4 to 5 cups of day-old cooked rice. So this teriyaki mushroom fried rice is really simple to prepare. We just need to prepare some of the components and stages before we bring everything together, but we're going to do it all in this skillet. So we're going to start off by making the scramble portion. You know how vegetable fried rice usually has a scrambled egg in it. We're not doing any eggs here. This is 100% vegan, but we want to highlight some egg alternatives. So I'm going to take half a block of firm tofu, crumble it up in the pan, and season it with my scramble seasoning. So my scramble seasoning has turmeric, onion powder, garlic powder, and black salt. That's it, but it really gives that great scrambled egg flavor because the black salt, which is actually derived from India, has a lot of sulfur in it, and so that gives it that egg yolky type of flavor. So we're going to start off. Our skillet has been heating over medium-high heat, and we're going to take some of our oil, put it in the pan. I'm going to move it around a little bit so that the base of the pan is evenly coated. And then we're just going to start to crumble our tofu into the pan. So we're going to take our scramble seasoning now and scramble it all over our egg. This is about a tablespoon of scramble seasoning. All right, we're going to stop there. And if you want to learn how to make this super simple seasoning for yourself, there'll be a blog post coming up soon on the Afro-Vegan Society website. So we just want to saute this up a bit. Actually, let me grab a hold of this pan. And I'm actually going to turn my heat up a little bit. So we've got our crumbled tofu and our scramble seasoning in our pan and a little bit of grapeseed oil. So now I'm just going to saute this a little bit until everything starts to come together and the scramble takes on the color of the spice, but also begins to take on a bit of golden brownness just from sauteing in the pan as well. All right, that looks good to me, so I'm going to put this back in our bowl and then we will start cooking our next component. Okay, so we've got our tofu scramble out of the pan sitting in a bowl. Now we're going to do our teriyaki mushrooms. These are really nice because they're going to add some nice meaty texture from the mushrooms, but they're also going to add a really nice kick of extra special flavor because of the teriyaki sauce, and it takes no time at all. You literally just need 2 ingredients to make these teriyaki mushrooms. So we're going to add our 8 ounces of sliced brown mushrooms in here, but like I said before, you can use whatever variety you prefer. Just add a little bit more oil. And I'm using grapeseed oil because it has a high smoke point, so it's perfect for sauteing your veggies. And then we're going to let this begin to cook. Okay, so I let these mushrooms cook on one side in an even layer in this pan for a few minutes. This to allow a lot of the water to release. And now when I start to stir them over, I see that they've gotten some really nice caramelization on one side. So I am going to toss them around a bit, let them cook off a little bit more moisture, and then I'm going to add the teriyaki sauce so they can get really like sticky and caramelized and brown and delicious. Spread it out in a nice even layer and let it go again. Okay, so these mushrooms have cooked on the other side for a few more minutes, and now it's time for me to add the teriyaki sauce. I'm just using about 2 to 3 tablespoons of teriyaki sauce, and I'm just going to pour it evenly on top. We want to add enough so that the flavor definitely makes an impact, but not so much that it takes over the flavor of the entire dish. A little bit goes a long way with teriyaki sauce. So, just want to stir the mushrooms around so that they get evenly coated. And then we just want to allow them to cook again for another few minutes, because what we want to happen is we want some of the moisture to cook off of the mushrooms, so the teriyaki sauce, like a lot of the liquid, can be evaporated and they become sticky. And this will help the sauce not to spread around as much across the whole dish, but really be concentrated in the mushrooms. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so our mushrooms have gotten nice and sticky and brown, and a lot of the moisture has cooked off and condensed down, which is exactly what we were looking for. So now we're just going to remove our mushrooms from the pan and make space for our vegetables. And look at how much they cooked down from when we started cooking. This was a much bigger bowl of mushrooms, but the water has released, and so they've cooked down quite a bit. But that just means they have a more intense flavor, which is great. Now it's time to do our veggies really quickly, so I'm just going to add a bit more oil to the pan. Okay. So now I'm going to take my vegetables and add them on into the pan. And we are just going to let these cook. We do not want to cook all the texture and flavor out, but we just want them to wilt down a little bit. And they're also going to release some water too. So this was a big serving of vegetables, but it's going to reduce a bit before this is all over. So one of the main things that I've learned with cooking that's made cooking really simple for me and taking a lot of the stress out is sometimes you can just let things sit in the pan and do what they do. It's a great way for them to get caramelization. It's a great way for the heat to distribute through different things that you're cooking. So I don't need to be constantly stirring this, because you know, it's not like I'm at an actual Chinese restaurant working with a super hot flame. My heater is only going to get so hot. So I'm going to be patient and just step back, allow this to do its thing. And once I start to see the steam rising off of these veggies, then it'll be time for me to do my saute thing a little bit, move them around, see how they're doing. So the steam is starting to rise off of my veggies. So now it's time for me to stir it around a little bit. And it's just beginning to wilt, which is what we want. These are about halfway done. Now, if you had a much bigger pan, honestly, you wouldn't have to do this in phases. But since this is a pretty big skillet I have here, and you know, I'm making a pretty big portion of this, I thought that let me show you a way how to make your fried rice with lots of flavors, lots of textures, a few different components, but show you how to do it using what you have. So you don't need to go out and buy a big, huge wok. If you have a large skillet like this, it's just a matter of taking time to saute your individual components one at a time, and then bringing everything together at the end. I'm actually going to take a little bit of my soy sauce and add that in just to give these a little flavor. And the salt also will help the water release from the vegetables as well, which is great because that's just going to aid in the cooking process. Break this down a little bit more. But like I said, we do not want to overdo it. I love when I get fried rice or stir fry or any just thing with sauteed or steamed vegetables and there's still that bit of crunch. So it's tender on the outside but still crunchy on the inside. That's what I always go for when I'm cooking my veggies. Another great thing about this recipe is if you're actually cooking on a stove with 4 heating elements, you can be doing this all at the same time. So while this is probably going to take me about 20 minutes to put together, it could take you like 10 minutes because you can have 3 pans going with your mushrooms and your scramble and your veggies. And then you put your rice in and then you bring it all together. So you just pour everything in at once. That's another way to go about this. If you're, short on time, you don't mind doing a few extra dishes. I personally would rather spend more time cooking and wash fewer dishes, but it's whatever you like. Okay, these veggies look good. I'm actually going to pull them now because they're going to continue to cook once I bring everything back together, so I don't want to overcook them at this point. So we've got our beautifully lightly sauteed veggies. Now it's time to do the last step, which is fry our rice. It is fried rice after all. And the rice may not get a chance to make contact with the base of this pan if we don't take a little bit of time to hit it with some oil into the hot pan before we add everything else back in. So another tablespoon or so of oil. I'm going to put all our rice in. This is about 4 or 5 cups of day-old rice. It is so important if you want to get the right texture to use day-old rice when you're making your fried rice, because I've made fried rice before using rice that I made that same day and it definitely comes out mushier. So if you wanted to have that nice chewy texture, you want to use day-old rice. I've made it with brown rice, white rice, quinoa, pretty much any grain. As long as it's day-old, it's going to work really well. So just want to spread this out in an even layer, and we just want to let it sit. Honestly, just let it sit a bit because we do want some caramelization. We want to get a bit of a crust on the base of this rice so that we have some crunchy bits, some tender bits, and it adds some really nice flavor and texture to the final dish. So just like I've been doing every other time, we're going to let this sit, cook a bit. When I hear some good sizzling and crackling going on, I'm going to come agitate, move the rice around, and then start adding our other components back in. Okay, so I don't know if you can hear it, but our rice is really crackling now. So it's time to give it a stir just to see how it's doing. Yes, and we've got some good color starting to form and texture on the bottom side. So I'm just going to break it up and stir it around. And at this point, I'm going to make a little space in the pan just to add our scramble back in so it can get a little bit more color. Okay. Want to let that heat through a little bit. Get a little bit more color and caramelization on it. And let this go for a few minutes, and then once we're done, I'm going to come in, mix everything up, and add all of our remaining ingredients in to finish off this delicious fried rice. So it's finally time to assemble this vegetable fried rice. So I'm going to start off by stirring together and breaking up my tofu scramble with my rice. I'm just gently folding them together to make sure that everything is evenly incorporated. And now it's time to go ahead and add in our sauteed mixed vegetables. This is a combination of cabbage, carrots, broccoli, and kale. And then I'm going to put my marinated teriyaki mushrooms on the top. And I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple tablespoons of soy sauce. And finally finishing everything off with a generous sprinkling of the thinly sliced scallions. And now that everything's in the pan, it's just a matter of stirring and tossing everything together so the rice, the vegetables, the mushrooms, and the tofu scramble are well incorporated. all the flavors are combined and everything is heated through evenly before it's time to serve. So this is such a hearty dish. You could eat it as your main course, which I'm about to do as I serve myself up a generous portion, but you could also eat it as a side with some of your other favorite vegan meals. And this is just such a satisfying, colorful, nutritious, affordable way to get in a delicious egg alternative like tofu scramble in the form of fried rice. So here we have the final dish. This fried rice is so good. It's so good. So many delicious vegetables. The teriyaki mushrooms are and the tofu scramble just adds the perfect touch, just like you used to get from the carryout, right? I absolutely love this dish, and it's just one of several dishes that I've created to share with you all from the Afro-Vegan Society website to celebrate egg alternatives this May, because May is National Egg Month, but we don't do eggs over here. We know, you know, I know, we all know that you do not need to eat eggs to eat bomb food. And this is just one example of one of the tasty things that you can eat when you choose plant-based living. And came together very quickly, very simple preparation, and your friends, your family, or you are gonna love eating bowl after bowl of this fried rice. So I think I've talked enough. I'm gonna go eat this off camera, and I hope you give this recipe a try. If you're looking for more recipes, visit afrovegansociety.org/recipes. I will see you in the next recipe video. Bye everybody.